What's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional, where we have Brother Jelani D.A. Kalfani Bey and Dr. Paul W. Dyer in the building this evening. We're going to talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, uh, and how it pertains to the population and its effects on the population, whether it's good or bad, and also what Trump is doing right now. We got Dr. Paul Dyer just, I guess, blinked out for a second, but I wanted to discuss this, being that this is a hot topic. This is a hot topic right now, and you brothers from pretty much like the masonry background, I would like to know from your perspective what you know about DEI and how it affects your life, your friends, and so forth and so on. So first, I want to open up the floor and to you guys to basically be able to break it down for the audience to understand from your perspective. From your perspective. But first, before we do that, how you doing, Brother Jelani Bey and Dr. Paul Dyer?
Islam, brother. Amen. I'm here.
I'm and we may not be here for long, but we're here today.
Islam. That's right, brother.
But here's the thing. When we talk about DEI, and we talk about diversity and all this other stuff. Hey, Jelani, can you mute yourself real quick? Mute.
Let me see.
When we talk about DEI, right? What are we really saying? What are we saying? It's equal opportunity, right? Is that what we're talking about too, Ron?
DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes.
Equity and inclusion.
Right.
We're also talking about equal opportunity. Because
right.
that's the buzzword that's been kicking around since, equal opportunity. What is it like to have equal opportunity? We can never, ever legislate morality. That's just a fact. So it's a shame that we have to put into a sort of some type of law or ruling or some type of statement that we have to look at people to say they too belong. This is only really meant for Black people. This is meant for women. This is meant for Black women. This is meant for Black men. Because people who have to fight for their citizenship, which is anyone who's non-white male, that's what we're talking about. Anyone other than non-white males that has to fight the right to be. That's the most disgusting thing as a human that we have to stand on. Now, is it appropriate? Is it necessary? That's the scary or the argument and the fact is that we have to fight someone to be acknowledged other than non-white men.
Now,
other than white men.
I want to say this. From what I know, the DEI was created for the inclusion of people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And
but they had a 1977's Act for that, for them to be included. You mean because they were not included into the workforce and then things like that, and they're still not really.
Now you're talking about people with disabilities.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, well, I'm not sure if they can handle this. I'm not sure if they're able to do this because the job I have for them, they're not able to work in my factory. You know what I mean? If they have this disability, I'm not sure if I want the liability for them to work in my factory. You mean they can't do anything? Yeah, but then I don't want to pay this payroll. So it's almost like it comes down to a financial aspect to it, right? They cannot lift this box. They cannot move this errand. They cannot go from here to there, and it's a timely matter. So it's like, where can I put them? So then it's not so much of a person of a mid to level job because they have the brains, they have the technology, they could be in those positions because they could have adequate things that could support them. Like there's no way. Like I know nurses I know a nurse who's a quadriplegic. I don't see anyone. I mean, she still has skills. So why aren't she working in the hospital? I mean, there's some nurses who don't do a lot of things, but I know this nurse could do a lot of things in the hospital that they could use her for. I mean, she has still use of her hands. She could still hand out meds. She could still check on patients, right? She could still do blood pressure. There's still a lot of things that she could do from her chair. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, there's, you know what I mean? There's still tons of things for her to do in a hospital or in any other setting, but there's no places for her. Why not? You're asking the wrong person. You have to ask the hospital. How come they have never thought of it?
Well, this is what the DEI is for. For people. This is what it was created for. If you look it up,
Right.
it says it's for people who have racial and ethnic minorities, women, gender diverse individual, LGBT communities, people with disabilities, religious minorities, neurodiverse individuals, people from low income backgrounds, and veterans. So that's what DEI is for. Do you think that is necessary for us to have this part of the government implementing legislation and policies for people? Do you think that needs to be a specific department for this or not?
No. And I stand on you cannot rule people to hire you because there's some ambiguity to it. Because if you have to make someone hire you, they never wanted you. Some of these people don't want you anyway. Now you're making them hire you. Now there's double to why they don't want you. That's an issue. It's a morality issue. It's a human issue. You know what I mean? If I'm coming for a job and you're looking at my skin color, you're not looking at my abilities, you're looking at my religion, my neurodivergent, my disabilities, whatever you're looking at, and not my abilities, that sounds like a problem for that person who is doing the hiring.
Right.
Now, what we need is someone to check them, but we don't have anyone to check them. Even in DEI, it has to be so many people to roll through their doors to say, how many people have they hired in the last 3 years that isn't this? Right? So their numbers have to be checked. By the time someone checks their numbers, they still haven't hired equal people. So someone checks their books, someone analyzes and says, you still hiring the same old.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, we'll rectify that. We just haven't had quality candidates apply. Well, let's look at the quality candidates that have applied. Oh, we discarded those applications. We don't keep those. Whoa. Yeah, we're not required to keep those. Who? They're not. They're not required to keep those applications. When they say they keep it on file, they don't need to keep them on file.
Mhm.
They're lying to you. So again, we need to strike the problem. The problem is what to legislate or how to build up your qualifications to go through the door. We always say, make yourself more qualified to get into the door. We're getting into the door. We're just not ever getting past the door. We're not getting past the gatekeepers.
Got you.
And you can never legislate the gatekeeper.
Right. You can't. So how do we rectify that? Or we just move on and do something else, or go to another job, or create opportunities for ourselves?
Thank you. you hit it right on the head. That is it. We have to, why we keep begging for the same sheep herder to give us our props when that sheep herder just cracks us on the back and saying, no sheep, no.
Peace to my brothers, man. Peace to the panel.
We say to ourselves, hey, Mike, we say to ourselves, nowhere else to go. I want to work in a hospital. Great. I go to the hospital, many hospitals. The gatekeeper is the same gatekeeper at the hospital A, B, and C, and D. So now what am I supposed to do? I'm a respiratory therapist. I want to work in a hospital. The hospital administration is the same looking administration at all 4 hospitals. What am I supposed to do now?
Right.
I have the qualifications to work in the hospitals. You said you had openings. I know you have openings. So why can't I get hired? Now, Black people don't own hospitals. So that leaves me out. Unless I know someone in a hospital that keep whispering in the gatekeeper's ear, hey, Paul's really good. I know him. He's a good brother. He's really good. He graduated top. It is so disheartening that we have to have someone on the inside to keep cracking the door for us. But that's what we've come to. Cracking that door. Now, we used to say you're a token Black. I don't mind token Blacks back in the day because we needed someone on the inside to sneak a window open and say, this way, this is how you got to get in. This is what you got to say.
Sat by the door.
Need to talk to Mr. Wilson. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sad. So we're still held back because there's still a sheep herder at the door.
Right. So how do you think
DEI
that
never rectified it?
Right, DEI never rectified it. So why are we worried about that? Why is that such a big deal? Jelani, you got something to say, brother?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I've been being patient, brother. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be patient. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. 2025, and we still begging to be included in somebody else's reality. That's the most asinine idea I've ever seen in my life. Let me tell you why. The Hispanic person, they'll pick the most educated and most articulate Spanish person. get him as a laborer on that construction site. He will get certified on every position on that construction site. He will get his license as a contractor. He will start bidding for jobs. Once he starts bidding for those jobs and he gets them, nobody but Hispanics work for that man. DEI out the window. It's irrelevant. See, it's irrelevant. I'm you know me. I'm kind of straight to the point about things. You know, it's not an issue with us because let's look at the hierarchy. When DEI came out, it's for white women. White women.
It benefited them more than us.
Right. Asians, you know, East Indians, the Hispanics, and we were like fifth, sixth on that thing. So we've never been a part of that equation. And part of it is that we still are depending on somebody else for our reality. Mm-hmm. We've had leaders to come along and say, hey, look, even Minister Farrakhan, he kept saying, we have to have our, look, I don't want no problem with you. Just give us 500 acres of land somewhere and let us come on that land and do our own thing. Mm-hmm. And y'all leave us alone.
Right.
Every other nationality comes to this country and does that. So they really don't have to think about DEI. It's not an issue. We are still at the point where we will doggone say, oh yeah, man, I just got a job. You know what I'm saying? As an administrator, man, at Self Memorial Hospital, brother. Yeah, man, doing good. You go, yeah, man, you know, I'm a doggone CNA, man. You know, could you hook me up there? Oh, nah, brother, I ain't gonna put my name on the line. We're still there. Every other nationality, they get their toe in the door. Don't nobody but their people come through it. So DEI goes out of the window. It becomes irrelevant. You see what I mean?
Right.
So we can feed into the narrative because of what Trump did. Trump is forcing our hand. We are forced to doggone rectify this problem by us.
Right.
It's not like our leaders didn't give us. That's what Noble Drew Ali was doing.
Didn't Noble Drew Ali say something like that?
Elijah Muhammad.
No.
Elijah Muhammad said, "Do for self."
I get my cookie. No.
To add on, Elijah Muhammad was preaching since the inception that black man must do for self, and the message to the black man. And the problem is that
remember who was his teacher. I didn't mean to cut your wisdom. Noble Drew Ali.
Of course, I'm sorry. We just don't have confidence. We don't have the solidarity. No, my bad, God. It's almost a connection, but we don't have that confidence and that solidarity.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. You know, go ahead if you finish your thought, brother Mike. I don't want to cut your wisdom, man.
But... No, you're good. But all right, I don't give a rat's ass which president. We survived as people, no matter who's in there. So to be running around and putting this fear in my heart, I don't got time for that. You know, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees before any man. And I put my life on that. I mean that. I put that on my child, my grandmother. I'd rather die before I bow down and have another man put fear in me. I'm sorry.
Brother Mike, now to your point, point, Doc, is check this out. I've seen the Hasidic Jewish community demonstrate ambulances.
We can't compare it. You can't compare it.
I'm not making a comparison. What I'm saying is the Islamic people and the Hasidic Jewish people have their own. Mm-hmm. If one of them gets sick or injured, they got ambulances to come scoop them up.
They bought hospitals. They build their hospitals. They build their community. You can't even compare. You can't. It's phenomenal. We can't even put it together. right? But one thing Jelani said is that we keep thinking that because I've developed this skill set, I can't start at the bottom. And that's where the patient comes in. If you want to, I don't care. There's so many people who work as they come into this country and they have the skill set and they're very educated from their country. They come in here and they drive cab. They do whatever they do, right? They come in and hustle because I've met them. They come in here, they drive cab, and they do this. Several years later, they're intertwined. They may or a little bit storefront. They're still using their knowledge, not because they're educated in science and physics and all this other stuff, but they come here to do the hustle. We come here, people here, so many Black Americans, they stay here and they're like, I'm educated in this, so I should be hired as this. But they're not willing to put the hustle in, the slow hustle, whether it be driving a cab, buffing floors, and work their way up. Like Jelani said, you have indigenous people, they'll come in on a job site, learn everything about that job site, be certified slowly on everything on that job site, and people like that person, right? On all the jobs, but all of a sudden he's bidding on these different jobs, but the people he hires is his people, right? And all of a sudden he has his own company, right? I know. I talked to this indigenous person. They started a lawn business. They bought ride-on lawnmowers and all the stuff they needed. They had 7 businesses by sharing equipment.
What?
They shared equipment, right? He had his contracts on Mondays and Tuesdays and Sundays, and the other people had their stuff on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays. It's like they split it up, and as they got more business, they bought more gear. And then they started to hire more people, and then they start to do their own days. But they started out together in one conglomerate. And then as they got bigger, they hired, so Ron hired more people, but us 4 started together. But we formed our own company. And as we started out with the same equipment, but as we got bigger, we got more equipment together. But you use more of it on these days. I use more. And as we got big, and that's how they grew.
Right.
They bought the trucks together. They bought the equipment together, and then it started to spread. And now, come on.
Right. Now, are you saying that we don't do that as a people? You think that the issue,
we don't.
The issue with our people, we've been saying for years, is a lack of unity.
Yeah.
So how do we get out of this mindset? There needs to be some kind of
mindset.
So I was talking
it's inferior mindset.
It is, but I was talking to someone today on one of my conversations, and this person brought up, a person said, I didn't want to change until I was ready. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm thank you for being ready, and it was time for you to be ready, and I'm glad you sought me out, and here you're moving forward. It took them 26 years to get over there. I wasn't listening to nobody. Okay. That's good. But we don't have 26 years for the collective.
No.
Right? And I know, and I said, well, I have a bunch of people I talk to that we keep trying to work out what I call the master problem. How do we get people to listen, to break the master problem? And it hit me because they're still working under the master.
At
It
jobs,
just,
you mean?
huh?
At their jobs, you mean?
No, in their mind.
In their
They're
mind.
still working under the master. The master problem is the problem because they're still working under the master. And we said that before. It's been so ingrained into our people because, like Mikey said, I will never die on my knees. I will always be on my feet. I would never bow down to anyone. Now, if he took that attitude in 1852, he wouldn't be here.
Yeah, he'd be dead.
He'd be dead, right?
And I wouldn't
So
mind.
you take the people who lived through all that. We call them survivors. They had to survive through it. So you take all the people who lived in those areas. They had a strong survival instinct. That strong survival instinct created a genetic code that was embedded into us to just survive.
Woo! Where's that button?
That's true. That's so true.
Now, what's the name of that again? I forgot exactly what's the name of it.
Epigenetics? Is it epigenetics?
It's close. Epigenetics is but it's another name.
I forgot
where it's passed down through generations. Is epigenetics? That's it. Okay. Okay. So that conditioning was passed through the DNA. So how do we rectify that through the DNA? How do we fix that?
It's the environment.
I would say this: the Jewish community, what they did was to keep themselves on the same page and on with a horse with blinders, is that they use religion or religious texts for them to be all in unison together. And that was the whole point of Noble Drew Ali creating the Moorish Science Temple of America. Now, here's the problem. Now, if you notice, the most what I would say successful nations on the planet, they all have either Islam, Buddhism, they all think the same. Now, as far as us as a people, we're scattered in our thinking. So one person's a Christian, one person's Islamic, one person's this, one person's that, one person's this. Whether it's through colonialism or what have you, that's a part of it. Now, how do we bring it all together under one accord? That's the hardest thing to figure out, right? Because if we say, all right, we're all gonna say now we're Moorish Americans. You know how many fights that happen behind that? We're already fighting right now over foundational Black American. Right now.
Don't say that. You're gonna bring them in here.
Which foundational Black American is not inclusive of our people, of all of our people. Right. So it's like, how do we fix this? This is like, it's like a crazy mathematical problem. We cannot. Do we have the intelligence to figure it? Now I'm starting to wonder now.
I think I got a solution.
Are we as intelligent as we say we really are?
Because I think one word could fix it. Love.
That won't have love. That's not
enough. That's not enough.
No, the reason why I say that, you gotta learn how to love yourself.
No,
you learn how to love yourself. You learn how to love others. Like it don't matter where you're from. I see you as me. You're my people. That's just for me.
Mikey, you're not. It is not about being right or wrong.
Yeah,
it is not about being right or wrong because I don't believe in that at all. But it doesn't. It does. Love is in science. The compound does not hold the code long enough for it to carry.
Right. And
That's what I would say.
And Mikey was born in the 80s like me, so he heard them songs. We are the world.
Yeah.
We are the children.
Because we are. Yeah, right. Jelani, you had something.
Terrible.
You know, our education system is it has a big part in this. Why do I say so? We talk about slavery like that's the only part of our reality, not understanding that at that time there were free Moors who owned slaves, European slaves. All right. You had one brother in Virginia, he was pushing for perpetual slavery. He was so ruthless with his slavery that they were like, well, look, okay, we'll let you have slaves, but you can't have too many white slaves. We etched that out of our mindset that during this time of our so-called Holocaust, there were people walking around looking like us and nobody bothered them. That's why a lot of people only accept the title of Moor. You notice that? They
run from that.
Yeah, they fight tooth and nail about that.
Yo, it's so crazy.
You know, but that is the title on the books of power.
Right.
That is the acknowledged seat of power, the Moors.
And they don't want to.
I ain't Arabic, man. You know, and well, man, I don't want to join nothing. Can you join Japanese? Can you join Chinese? But in 2025, we're still screaming black.
But I'm going to tell you this. Speaking of China, China is a dictatorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Are we in agreement on that?
Well, I mean, they're one of the biggest powers in the world.
Yeah.
They're doing something right.
So, I mean, I'm not suggesting a dictatorship, but
it's a factual. It's a factual shame that people don't know the history. The people don't know their history because it goes back to what you were saying, Ron. Are we smart enough to understand our history? Because if we have been genetically programmed to just survive, what does history have to do with my survival? I have to discard my history because I'm only surviving. I'll get by. I'll make it through. Right? You can keep beating me down, but I got this. The word I got this, it's a survival mode. Mm-hmm. Remember, words have meanings and internal meanings, and we'll say this over and over again in many ways as we can. Words have power. It has frequency. It has action. It has motion. It has form. All throughout the universe. So if people keep saying, I got this, no one's going to hold me back, those are all survival. Those aren't leading, moving words forward. That just means you're not going to hold me down, but it doesn't mean you're moving forward either.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, I want to say this, right? Being that we've realized, even just speaking on this podcast, that the condition that we have is deeper than just speaking. It's embedded within our DNA. So how do we change from the DNA point of view or aspect? How do we start that?
Well, someone just wrote, I saw pop up here, it says, keep the people busy so they don't have time to think.
Right.
Now, that's an illusion Jelani's talking about. That's not true. You're not as busy as you think you are for you, because everyone has time to think. If you don't have time to think, I don't know what type of lifestyle you truly think you're living in. But if you don't have time to think, then who is moving you right now?
Right. You mentioned that before in another podcast. Yep.
Right. Who is actually directing your life? If you don't have time to think, because I tell my kids, my kids are older, they're thinking. But if I tell my grandkids, I ask the question, how did this happen? And you say, I don't know. And you say, I don't believe that. Right? They may have not the words to explain it, because I know you may not have the words to explain it, because if you truly don't know, I'm afraid of you. Because you not knowing what you just did, that is a scary thought. Like, you don't know how you turn the doorknob. Wow. Like, who's controlling this child? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't know that you've just brushed your teeth and why, that's a scary, scary thought.
Okay. These brothers are grifters. We don't know our history because we've seemingly been in a multi-generational war effort to be wiped out. Our history has been destroyed, hidden, and whatever else. Okay. So here's the thing. I agree with you when you said we've seemingly been in a multi-generational war effort to be wiped out. I agree with you 100%. Now, our history has been destroyed. I could disagree with you on that because there's so much out there about our history. It's not hidden anymore. It's everywhere for you to view. So I disagree with that. Okay.
Islam, and the comment before that one, our mental stupor to be inclusive with other people. This is where we're making a mistake, because other nationalities, what makes them get along with each other is a mutual respect. See? Mr. Galliano is not going to come to Chinatown flexing, because he knows him being Italian means nothing to the tongue. And he may get heat. That's mutual respect. History has taught us that our adversary only respects somebody who is not afraid of him. Our leaders who were not afraid of him, they had to hurry up and get rid of them. And they used us to do it. Yep. Every time our leaders have been betrayed, it's been from within, without consequence. Dr. Malik El-Shabazz, that dude's killer shouldn't be out here doing interviews after he got out of jail. I'm sorry, bro. You need to be cold. You need to be fertilizer. We're killing our leader. I mean, and I'm not a violent person, but any other nationality, with the Chinese, they don't play that. They'll kill you and every male in your family. See what I mean? See what I mean? They don't want to see the enemy no more. All right, we've been conditioned with turn the other cheek. See?
Survival mode.
Yeah, that 60s era scared the bejesus.
You know what? You know what I think is this. I think this is my opinion. I think that we're comfortable in our position.
True.
Because all of those nations who have power the way they do over their population, those people there, if something happens and they disagree with it strongly, and they pay with their lives.
They don't make hashtags.
Throw rocks. They'll throw rocks at tanks. You know?
You can take that a little bit closer to home, Brother Ron. I mean, come on, we kind of look another way, or we squint our eye, but in the gang culture, bruh, if you go against G code, if you go against the bylaws of that set, there are known consequences. That's why they're so organized.
Well,
BP
then
discipline.
but we're going back to that old conversation that we had about oath.
Right.
Right. And as far as born Black Americans, we don't have a country.
Excuse me?
We really born Black Americans, we don't have it. We don't have a country. We're here without a country.
That's not true. We've been given amnesia to thinking that we are from somewhere else.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that how that amnesia has happened. But take it for what it's worth. We don't. It runs very deep, but we don't have a country. So you take anything born after the year 1800s, this is our home. Prior to that was a lot of people who were brought here. There were a lot of people who were born on this land from people who were brought here. Remember, they didn't bring a lot of people were born here because of a lot of birthing camps and people mixing each other from different slaves. They didn't bring over as many slaves that were just born here from slavery. You remember? So that's a lot of birthing that happened.
Mansa Musa and Abubakari. They brought soldiers, sailors here by the thousands.
Mm-hmm.
And they amalgamated with the indigenous people.
Yeah, I know.
So we can't discard that. You know, we can't keep giving him these accolades. Like, he was powerful enough to bring millions of Al-Kibulani over here. That's a lie. 85% of the people who look like everybody on this panel is indigenous to these lands. Let's stop sliding away from that, because that's why they're trying to get rid of TikTok. Because TikTok pulling down their pants and pulling up their skirt. Oh, the people you've been calling Black and slave Africans, stuff like that. No, they're the indigenous people, not the Indians from Siberia. They're the original people. And see, once again, just like the word more, we running away from indigenous. Oh, no, man. No, man. Power to the people. You know, back to Africa. But what about when this continent was known as Africa? Fact.
Yeah.
A Mexican.
Yeah.
What about that? So which Africa are you from?
Right. Which part?
Why is it that the Al-Kibulani in their school system never heard of the slave trade until they got here?
That's right.
Wait a minute. I don't know about that. Really?
What?
Really?
Oh man, I talked to doctors. This doctor from Togo, all right, and he was like, you know, in my country, you know, I first heard from this slavery thing when I came to America.
Yeah.
Well, I would say they heard about it, but it wasn't as prevalent in their society, in their texts, you know, their education, like it is out here. The reason why it's so prevalent in the education in America is because it's American history.
That's right.
Aren't those Americans related to the Portuguese, the French, the Dutch? They're the same people. Same people. And those are the people in Al-Kibulan educating the Al-Kibulani.
For those who don't know what Al-Kibulan is, it's Africa.
It's Africa. The British is the one who changed the word. Yeah.
Yes. The Cyprus Africanus.
We don't know that. How come we don't know a Mexan? How come we don't know that? See, we have to redo our education system. You know, when they talk about dealing with, we talked about medical earlier. So did not hospitals start in the church? Did not hospitals start with clinics?
Yeah.
So let those who have that education start a clinic. And then have our people go to that clinic until that clinic becomes a building, till that building becomes a hospital.
I agree with you, brother, but we can't even figure out whether we can't even agree on a name. Name.
Yeah, throw us off.
You know what's going to happen, dear brother? It's going to come a time when we'll be forced to. Because when lead start flying and casualties come up, do you think you're going to be rolled into their hospital and leave alive? I don't care if you get shot in the arm.
Hold on, Justin. My apologies for the my apologies to the panel for the insults. We the YNs.
The young, yeah.
Yeah, I know. So we, the young ninjas, we are frustrated with no direction, and we're historically illiterate due to certain circumstances. Now, now I want to talk to. I don't want to say. I mean, you call yourself a young N. I think that's where you're starting off wrong. First, you're calling yourself a young N, and maybe that comes from the social media.
That's a social.
Yeah. So maybe if you get rid of that out of your psyche, that could probably help you. You know what I'm saying, and going in the right direction. You get what I'm saying? We're here, right, for some kind of reference and motivation to let
just
you
ask
know.
the question, right?
So we're just to ask the question. Just ask the question to the panel. We're here for you. So if you need some kind of guidance, ask questions. We have podcasts all week, so we're here for you.
Yeah, bro.
And what he said about historical illiterate, he's I don't know if it's he or she, and I'm sorry about the part, but Justin, historical illiterate, this person's correct. And this person's correct by many factors, not because of circumstances, because of what society situations has been put on you to like Jelani said, to separate you from the historical context, right? Like I know with I think Trump saying he's going to get rid of Black History Month. I'm so happy, right? I'm so happy because everyone's going. I can't wait to hear people blow up about. He's going to do this. First of all, I'm glad I'm going to say this on air. If you upset about him getting rid of Black History Month, that sounds like you problem.
You cutting up.
Why should someone? You still hear me?
I hear you.
If he's going back to DEI,
your audio.
If someone has to legislate you to teach you or your children, okay, you back? We back?
Yep.
Are we back?
We got you. Yep.
Are we back? Okay.
Yes, sir.
If a month has to teach you that you need to study your Black history, that sounds like a you issue. That's a problem. Now, I don't know why your parents, maybe they didn't know, right? And I don't know. I don't know why they didn't know. Circumstance, I don't know why. I don't know why they're elders. I don't know. There's many reasons, many circumstances, like Justin says, but there's too much of information on the information highway that you can look up. And then once you look it up, you can then ask the question and say, hey, I read this. Is this true to X, Y, and Z? To the panel, like, is this true? Yes, we can give you some more guidance. Go read this book because Mikey's got a ton of books behind him. I have a library. Oh, my goodness, right? Because reading. Reading is fundamental. But what I'm saying is start wanting to learn for yourself. Because when the bullets start flying, it's going to be hard for you to take an oath when you don't know what you're giving your life to, because you don't know where you've come from. Right. And I think that's where I think that's where you're going to be stuck. And if you're going to be stuck, you're going to be so out of it. And you're going to be in harm's way because you want to be in, but you don't know who you are to bring forth your energy. So
Right.
you're gonna have so much ambiguity about your non-learned self.
Islam, you're absolutely correct. But when we get our heads out the clouds and understand that this is at stake, him living to be, this is my third youngest grandson, him living to be 60 like me. When we start understanding that that's the priority reality, that he grows up to maturity, the importance is somebody like me showing him our history, whether he understands it or not. Show him the images.
The images.
See what I mean? Show him that. I showed Brother Ron today. Yeah, you get you down. I was just showing you off right quick. Go find something to eat. Gotcha. All right. So now I showed Brother Ron today, a Buddhist monk. That dude was doing laundry in full regalia, chilling. I've seen Moors go to a chief's meeting, a heads of state meeting, with their fez in the doggone hat box, and they got on a shirt, some slacks, and some shoes. Other one got on skinny jeans and a doggone muscle shirt, looking like the norm. See? So if you don't give that demonstration, how do they know to ask the questions?
Yep.
We got to have a demonstration. We have to have a commitment to demonstrate.
Proper representation.
Not just in Black History Month with the kente, with the daishikis, garbage like that. Even on the indigenous side, man, wear your war bond down 125th. If you know you a Shinnecock, if you know you a Salagi, bruh, sport that. Heck, wear a t-shirt saying you that.
But the thing about it, Jelani, we're just not even there to even have that conversation. We're still stuck on the just a name to call each other. We can't even we couldn't even find, we had a podcast last week, we couldn't even figure out what we do as a people that's positive. We couldn't even figure that out. We had the whole panel on crickets on
cricket. Can I add something?
Pretty much, yeah.
Can I add something to add on to what Jelani said earlier and brother Dr. Dyer? I'm all for canceling the whole, and I know they're gonna get angry, cancel this Black History thing, because I always respected it, but as I got older, I saw it as a ploy for money. Because you could scream Black Lives Matter, Black History Month. There's a corporation that's going to have a Black History cell that's going to earn off of your pain and struggle. And you're going to feel good watching these stupid Buick commercials. As of lately, I have no patience when it comes to this topic no more, because I'm just frustrated with people. You're going to see these commercials trying to sell you a Cadillac. They're going to have some smooth Black guy talking. They're going to entice you to go out there and buy it. You're going to see them, as you said, wearing the kente cloth and all that, pandering, taking a knee. I'm cooking this. I'm going to celebrate Kwanzaa for them, the history of this and that, X, Y, and Z. And it's just all a ploy for money. This whole Black struggle thing has been packaged and resold.
Right. Yo, and you know what else, though? Now, for Black History Month, right? They give us the same leaders every Black History Month.
Dr. King.
Medgar Evers. And then, you know what I thought? I said maybe they don't talk about other Africans all over the world when it comes to Black history, because they're just not African American, but they always talk about Nelson Mandela.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
They pick and choose
who they want.
Right.
Why don't you talk about? Hey, talk about Noah Drew Ali. Talk about Malcolm X. Talk about Khalid Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad. Talk about Dessalines.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Talk about the Takis War in
Right.
Jamaica, the Maroons.
The
Yeah.
Maroons, yeah.
Nah,
yeah.
they won't do that.
Taino,
Oh, you know what? Let's not forget. Let's not forget the Maribel sisters, the 3 that were murdered by Rafael Trujillo on them. They fought for liberation. They're not considered like. Come on, man.
the Stoner Rebellion. See, we under the impression that we never fought back. You got the Stoner Rebellion. You got the Gullah Wars. You know, this is the kind of history we should know. This is the kind of history we should teach. The same brother that was saying how he was illiterate historically, teaching that he comes from a legacy of warriors.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? We don't do that narrative. When it comes to that, we run from, like I was talking about, Mufti. Mufti are Islamic. As a matter of fact, Mufti are like Islamic law experts, but also they're like law enforcement. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when you talk to some Moorish Americans, they run like heck from that. Oh no, man, we don't need a Mufti. You know, we don't. But every religious jurisdiction has a version of that. Your Jesuits in the Catholic Church, that's their military. See what I mean? Your doggone your Mufti from the Islamic community. Mm-hmm. See what I mean? The Sean Rem in the Hasidic Jewish community.
Yeah, they all have structure and order.
Exactly, and they have a military to protect them. Even the army.
Jelani, and we don't want to keep taking up so much time because we have very little time, because there's so many great people out there that's done so many amazing things. I mean, way before Malcolm, way before Martin Luther King, after Martin Luther King, during Martin Luther King. You know, I have whatever about Martin Luther King, and but I just saw on the thing where the lady said her son was going to do a paper, and the son had picked Malcolm, and the teacher told the son no, right? Yes, my son was going to do an essay, and they only gave a selection, and I told him to do it on Malcolm, and his teacher said no. Now, this is a thing about. This is not an argument to do with a teacher, right? Because it's just going to turn into a thing, right? We can only do it on the selections, and I would still have my son do the paper anyway, and then I would have my son do the paper on the selections that they gave us. So I would have him do 2 papers. That's what my mother would do for me, and I would still have him do the research on both papers, and then I would do a comparison paper without using Malcolm's name and use the other name in the selection, and I would hand that paper in. I wouldn't use Malcolm's name. I would say there was one leader. His name was, I will not say. And then there was this other name, and his name was Martin.
Yeah.
And I would use the comparison, and I would hand that paper in. I don't even know what grade this is. This could be like 5th grade or something. So, but that's the paper I would hand in, because that's me challenging the teacher. It's saying, you told me I wouldn't do it on Malcolm. I'm not going to use Malcolm's name, but I'm going to do the paper anyway with the comparison against Martin Luther King.
Islam. See, so here go another example of that. All right, my daughter, she was in the 7th grade, and she did a paper on Sinki with La Amistad.
Yeah.
And her Asiatic teacher gave her an F. All right. I went to school and challenged that. You know, well, no, you make it sound like that whole thing was a massacre. You know, they did. Listen, they fought for their freedom.
It's not a massacre.
See what I mean? So it was self-defense. It's only a massacre when you do them in. All right. Then my son, he did a paper, a picture on the Pilgrims. And it showed the Pilgrims with muskets blowing away the Indians as they was coming on shore. They flunked that doggone picture with the little essay with it. And I went up there and rampaged. Like, look, it's the truth. Thanksgiving was about a massacre. It was not about Indians and Europeans sitting down at the table singing Kumbaya. But
well,
why?
here's
the example. It's putting the seed in them.
Right. But here's the thing, because the education system is controlled.
Yeah.
And they have to fit a certain criteria.
Right.
And if you don't fit that criteria, then forget about it. But that's why it's important for us to educate our own children.
Right.
They
that's
educate.
What I'm getting at.
Right. They educate our children to basically go to work and basically keep society going the way they want it to go.
Right. You can't challenge that.
Rightfully so, though, because if I run a society, I'm going to be doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You can't challenge that.
Right.
You can't challenge that.
So this is why.
You know that word can't.
Yeah, I do.
You know that word can't.
Yeah.
Do you know that word can't, Mikey?
Yeah, I do. That's why. Yeah. How about this, July?
Raise hell.
I started my own school.
There we go.
I've started my own school. We open in 2025 in Maryland, and for those exact reasons, because the school we started, we will allow those types of things. We started the school that teaches differently, so it takes away from the school district that has control over the kids. We want kids to have control over their own education and how they learn, the way they learn, and what drives them to move their higher plane forward. The education system you're talking about has control. We want kids to have control. That's why we developed the school we developed. I'm talking from every IT period. We wrote it for a whole year. It is now being studied in Washington, D.C. is the most amazing written new curriculum ever. And we wrote it from scratch. We didn't use no outline of other schools or anything. It's a blessing, but we've gone through it now. We've gotten the fundings and all this stuff. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is the school system you're going to challenge, they're unable to be challenged because it's their system.
Right.
Granted. True. Right. But gentlemen, there's an element that we keep missing. We're probably ignorant of it. The reason why we're even concerned about what they say about our curriculum,
right,
is the contracts
that
we refuse to nullify. Give you an example. The Amish, Asiatic woman, she came across a community of Amish people, found these 13 and 14-year-old girls with babies, infants. And the leader, he had about half a dozen of them by himself. So she called the health authorities, DHS or DDS, whatever you call it, right? They kidnapped all of the children. But when the smoke cleared, they had to return those children because they had no birth certificates.
I got what you're saying. They're not wards of the state. They are not wards of the state.
They're not wards of the state. See, this is why somebody can see your kid, don't like you, and say, man, I saw that dude run cold cop, reverse punch his son in the mouth at Walmart. It's a lie. But they're going to kick your door in and kidnap every child in that doggone house. Why? Because it belongs to the state. I don't care how you feel.
Yeah, we knew that. I knew this back when my first child was born. As soon as the birth certificate come out, it's a ward of the state. It's not even your child anymore.
No,
it's only your child the first 48 hours until that lady comes in and says, sign this paper. that has the birth certificate.
Right. I mean, because your footprint was your signature, but then mom had to co-sign for it. Now, I'm very active in the movement. On 3 occasions, we were called to the hospital facing the police and going, look, man, our religious beliefs and practices dictate we don't sign a birth certificate. We have a certificate of solar return from our jurisdiction, and that will be signed. The birthing nurse signed it, the delivering doctor signed it, the Grand Sheik in that area signed it, and I signed it off as a national Grand Sheik. And those children went straight into the school system with those credentials. See, unless we do it, we don't know it's there to be done.
But now I'm gonna show you something. Now, guess what, Jelani? This is my whole point when it comes to our people right here, right? You say that, right? But guess what? The way you would demonstrate law, you're practicing law as a citizen, right? Quote unquote, so to speak. I disagree with it. Now, how do we come together under the same accord? If you agree to living life like that, I disagree with living life like that. Dr. Paul Dyer probably has no idea what that's about, really. Do you?
And that's an opinion, but this is
okay. So you know about that demonstration where the paperwork and yada yada yada, all that whole deal. Okay,
that's not it, dear brother.
So what I'm trying to say, what I'm saying now, Dr. Paul Dyer, you know what that is. What do you think about it? Do you think that we should, as a people, as a collective, go in that direction?
I see what I know what you're asking, Ron, and I don't like to use the word should, but it is a choice. But you have to be able to know what that choice brings later.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
You just have to know how that plays out later for the said person.
Ramifications.
Right.
That's it.
See what we're saying? We're saying how that plays out later.
Yeah.
Ramifications.
Yeah.
That's fear.
No.
That's fear.
Disinformation.
No, that's being calculated.
Yeah.
Right.
It's disinformation.
But still and yet, does the Catholic Church do that?
No, because they have it mapped out. Because they don't plan for 5 years. They plan 100 years down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
All I'm gonna say for so-called black people in this country, just look at it as prisoners of war. You've been outsmarted.
But yes, sir.
You understand these people? You're playing checkers with people that's playing chess. They know the ins and out.
Right. They would. Wait a minute. You forgot. We taught them.
Of course.
Our ancestors taught them.
Right. And look, and Brother Jelani, I don't disagree with you, right? I don't disagree with the fact that our ancestors taught them. However, I'm at a point right now where it's like, we've been hearing this for so many years now. Okay, what are we to do? We already know through epigenetics, it was passed, like conditions were passed through the genetics, through the DNA. I think that is a deeper issue than, and I'm not trying to disregard what you're saying and things like that. I'm just, in my opinion, I think the DNA issue is a deeper issue that we need to take care of and deal with to fix our problem, because the conditioning is in our DNA, is in our genetic makeup at this point, and we pass it on and on and on through generations. So we're like on a hamster wheel, or we're chasing our tails. We keep going in the same direction over and over and over and over and over again, and regurgitating the same information for years and getting nowhere. So my what I'm saying is, through the DNA is where we should, like this person just said, heal and reprogram through the DNA.
But
who is that person?
But you know, Ron, I've worked out that problem scientifically. There's several of us have. I've done it through the science. I'm not the only one, but I would say I understand the science of how we worked it out. I understand the science of how it works through. That's why I'm a neuroscience. That's why I dived in like a deep sea diver into the neuroscience, into how the brain works and why it works the way it works, and how it has affected the genetic component and the epigenetics.
Right now, from
And
your
and so when people talk about rewiring the brain, it kind of gets me upset because they say it like it's a platitude, like you just changed the salt into the pepper shaker. It is a little bit more than that. Because there's one time you asked me about the military. How do these guys prepare? How do you guys prepare for such hard types of things? And I kind of was like stuck because it's training. I don't know how else how to put it.
That's what it is.
Between those people and us, it's mental training. Like, we go through stuff that people was like, you know what? I thought this shit would be cool. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Right? That's it. You know, it's kind of like putting stuff. I thought I could do it. I thought I could run it. I thought I could climb it. I thought I'm not doing it.
Right. Now I want to add this. With that being said, and I totally understand and I agree. Now the question is this: do we, as a people, as a collective, have the intestinal mental fortitude for rewiring, so to speak, in dealing with the training?
We had the person says, there are people who don't have time to think.
Exactly.
So if a person says they may not have time to think, and we talked about, if you don't have time to think, that's wow. What makes you think that the person has time to do the other stuff? Right?
Right.
Can I add on to that, Doctor?
Yeah.
It can be done.
It can be done.
I take it from personal experience. The thing about it is, our people, we have to be very honest, brutally honest, to express, again, your weaknesses, your strong points, and acknowledge when you're wrong. And not everyone will have the same answer. You know, nobody gets it right the first time. But
No.
it's a process. Like, you really have to break your mind. I remember when I got into this whole knowledge thing from young. By the time I hit 20, I had to start breaking my mind down. You got to shatter that ego. You got to be vulnerable. You make yourself vulnerable and come out of your comfort zone. And basically eliminate the thoughts of society standing instead on you and live for yourself. What works for you. Take from one extreme to the next extreme. You got to be able to learn how to maneuver between those two realms.
Let's put it simply. If anyone has ever been an addict, has anyone ever been an addict, they've gone from being an addictive, and they're healing. That's the training. Like, I was once an addict years ago. Now I'm not an addict. How long did it take you to become not an addict anymore? Well, I went through a program. It took me a year. That's the training I'm talking about.
Right.
You were in rehab for a year. So now you can actually consider yourself still on the healing journey. You may have some glitches, but you're not going backwards. That's the dedication.
Like, sugar's addictive.
Whatever. We're not talking. Yeah, sugar is addictive. We're not talking about 4 years 4 months sober. We're talking about a year sober because they went through 8 months of rehab in-house.
Right.
What's up, brother Sharif?
Yeah, what up,
I don't know
Reese?
why.
What's going on, Reese?
He's ready for the next podcast, and we're like taking.
Now, apologies. You know, we got bad weather conditions up this way. I got stuck. Got stuck for a minute, but all is well.
Windstorms,
Snow and wind.
oof.
Yeah. So
Ask brother Sharif about DEI.
Yeah, I mean, we went into a whole build about it, but yeah, Sharif, what's your take on the DEI?
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the new civil rights. It's the new civil rights. Our people got pushed out of it by the LGBTQ community.
Biden.
We got pushed out.
this long.
Honestly, listen. We put together, myself and my assistant Grand Sheik, mainly it was really my assistant Grand Sheik. We put together a novel DEI designation. Novel. If people can, if a guy can wake up today and say, you know what, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, or I'm not a boy or a girl, I'm a cat, and the workforce has to cater to that, and society has to cater to it, then I should be able to wake up today and say, I'm not Negro, Black, and colored. How about that? So we came up with a designation called race nonconformity. And so we jumped feet first into the DEI arena, only to realize literally we were getting pushback. Listen close. We're getting pushback from the LGBTQ community. You know what they were saying essentially?
What's
The quote unquote Black community got its comeuppance with the civil rights movement. This is for us. That's what they were saying. It's so crazy. So
It's the
crazy.
hypocrisy. You know what's the hypocrisy about that?
Mhm.
And again, I don't. We don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna get us canceled. When the George Floyd riots were happening, and I'm not attacking that community. Somehow they always integrate their struggle into Black struggle.
Straight
And
like
listen,
that.
listen to what I'm saying, people.
That's exactly right.
People of color, you cannot hide your complexion.
Right.
All right, you can't hide that.
Right.
Sexuality could be hidden behind closed doors, but your complexion you can't.
Right.
So our struggles are two different struggles. Yes, it's discrimination, but ours is two different things.
Diluted.
Ours is even
Yeah.
bigger. Ours is even bigger than just that, though. Follow me. Racism, color code race classification is the mother and the sustainer of racism, white supremacy. In other words, a big part of the problem, and Brother Mikey, I'm preaching to the choir, you know this. A big part of the problem is all of us accepting the idea that people are identified by skin tone. Huge part of the problem. If we're in listen, to even discuss white supremacy or racism, we have to be in a space that's safe to do so. And the only space that's safe to do so is a space where nobody's identifying that way. See? And color code race classification, as we know, and as the American Anthropological Association has openly said, as UNESCO for the United Nations has openly said since 1950, color code race classification is a caste system operating in the so-called free world. It's a caste system.
That's all. That's really all it is.
That's what it is.
Because I'm glad Brother Sharif is on, because we talked about it, because I told you how I felt about it. But if you lined us up of the system of DEI,
yes,
Brother Ron, of who in the system, who in the caste system that you're going to cast out, who are they going to be? Negroes? Who else?
In the caste system?
Negroes.
Well, hold on. You got Negroes.
Talking about Hispanics?
You have Hispanics. You have gays and lesbians or LGBTQ, right? Whatever. You have Jewish. Who else?
Orientals.
I mean, you could say Irish and Italian too.
You can say it, right? So we say Irish and Italian. So that's 7. On a visual, without asking any questions, who gets killed first?
Negro.
No speaking. The Negro.
Horror movie.
Definitely, right? The Negro gets killed first. That's easy. You don't need to ask no questions. And the Chinese. And that depends, right? Which Asian, the Chinese, they're done because of the eyes. The other people can hide. The last person that would probably be killed is the gay person and the Jew. The Italian, the Irish, nothing. They can assimilate those Italian, Irish, and the Jewish and the gays. They could all be like, not me. I'm part of you.
Right.
Doctor, can I jump in, Doctor?
Yeah.
The doctor just brought up a very, very, very interesting point, right? I've been in these circles. My assistant Grand Sheik is in this circle a lot because he's a public educator, teaches in the school system. Quote unquote white people, listen close, people. They're only white around non-white people.
That's it.
When they're around themselves, oh my goodness.
Nationality.
Straight like that.
Yeah.
It's the
I
truth.
know.
I'm Italian. I'm Irish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight up nationality.
Yeah.
See that? Ain't that something?
Mm-hmm.
What does that tell you? I'm going to tell you what it should tell you. It should tell you that when we say it's a caste system operating in the open, it means that we're late to the party. They've always known that. You hear what I'm telling you? They've always known it. Always. To a greater or lesser degree, but nevertheless, they know. When you look at the federal government's Office of Management and Budget, Federal Directive 15, which is the standard for race classification for statistics gathering, etc., and data in this country.
And data, yeah.
And when you read the definition of white, it includes North Africans. So that means the Sudanese darker than my shirt, when he immigrates here, is classified as white.
Free white people. Islam.
Free white people.
You know what's so funny you say that? I saw a movie. I forgot how long ago and what movie it was. All I remember is they had 2 African brothers outside. This was like in some kind of like racist period in American history. You had 2 African brothers outside. They had like, like Muslim or Islamic regalia on, and then they're just standing there, and the European is servicing these 2 people, and then they see a so-called black man, and he goes something like to the effect of like, "Get out of here, nigger,"
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
That was just crazy. Anyone know that movie? Anyone know that movie?
I know what you're talking about.
The movie, brother, but I can tell you, listen, I know brown skin preachers, Christian ministers who told me back during the civil rights era, when there was still Jim Crowism to a degree or whatever, right? And segregation. They used to, when they traveled, they would dress up like Muslims with turbans and jalabiyas. So they would totally escape all of that. They'd get seated with the Europeans. They'd be treated top tier.
Wow.
They even acted like they spoke a foreign language.
To my point earlier.
Yeah, that's right. Jelani did say that earlier.
Yeah. Islam, may I put some in there as an example? All right. In our temple in Connecticut, After our debt meeting, we were downstairs from the temple, and we were parked. We were standing around our secretary's car, and a policeman pulled up into the parking lot, did a hook slide, and jumped out of the doggone car. And he walked up, "Good evening, gentlemen," and we ignored him. Now, mind you, we were in jalabias, fezzes, turbans. We were Muslim down. Because he didn't get a reaction, he didn't get a Negro's reaction, he went down the street and confronted a Negro. Mm-hmm. And you can hear him yelling, "Man, why you ain't bother them cats up there, man? I'm waiting on my ride, man. I just come from my girl's house, man. Why you harassing me? I ain't doing nothing." That dude was at the temple the next day. Man, I don't know who y'all are, but I saw that whole thing. How come he didn't mess with y'all like he messed with me? Goes right to Grand Sheik's point. Because they look like foreigners. They look in their proper person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See? We got to sever that Christian customs. That's what the prophet said in chapter 48. You know, in verse 7, we must return the church and Christianity back to the Europeans, but that's for his earthly salvation. We got to start looking like Muslims so they know the difference. Islam, I yield.
Indeed. So, I don't know if we're all clear on the DEI, and so we all agree whether they keep it or do away with it, it doesn't matter.
No. Well, okay. This is my thought on it, right? You know, DEI is a vehicle, just like political parties are vehicles, just like organizations and agencies are vehicles. DEI is a vehicle, right? I'm not crying over what's happening with DEI right now with the current presidential regime. I'm not crying over it because we come from a school of thought where we do for ourselves. And if I use another agency, vehicle, avenue, that's not mine. I know it's not mine.
Okay.
So listen. Okay. I'm not crying over, oh, they want to get rid of DEI. So what? You know?
I like that.
I'll point it out and be like, yeah, I see what you all are doing. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? I'll point it out and be like, you know, not to hijack the conversation or to derail it or take it another place, but I'll go. I have no problem pointing the finger and being like, listen, this whole immigration nonsense. What does 14th Amendment got to do with immigration? We know what this really is. You see what I'm saying? We know what it really is, and that's just me attempting to demonstrate I have, or I'm striving for the intelligence to put my finger squarely on the problem. Mm-hmm. A big part of what we have with the status quo is that they presume, and a lot of times they're right, that we're not intelligent enough or informed enough to be able to put our finger squarely on the issue. See what I'm saying? When you got, listen, follow me. When you got pro-MAGA politicians that have influence now, literally saying, in order for, and this is a quote, in order for us to get back to the 50s, see, that's what MAGA really means. In order for us to get back to the 50s, we have to repeal the 60s.
Yeah. That's right.
That's a quote.
You got to peel it back. And that's what the attack on the 14th is.
Straight like that, brother. That's what it is.
That's what it is. And I think we said this offline. It's that once you start opening up the holes of the 14th, this is what he has set up of kicking things back to the lower courts. And once the lower courts open up into its embellishes what they think they should do and what he has already stacked the lower courts did. He's already stacked them in his first term. Most people never thought about that. He's already stacked the lower
He
court.
stacked his first brother. That was the plan.
That was the plan.
That was the plan.
And that's what I said. Local politics. Local politics. He stacked the lower courts.
Yes. Yes.
He stacked them. So now when he kicks everything back to the states and the appellate courts, that's it.
Brother, doctor, again, I would have this conversation with a couple of my sheiks earlier today. Way too many people are offering opinions, and their opinions are not informed with a proper knowledge of real history. They're forming opinions and they know nothing about the Compromise of 1877. They're forming opinions and they know nothing about the 200-plus-year-old fight between federalism and states' rights.
That's right.
They don't know nothing about that. They don't know. They don't realize that what we're literally fighting is a continuation of the Confederacy.
That's it.
They don't even realize it.
That's the Confederacy.
The Confederacy has been trying to get rid of the 14th Amendment since 1865.
Because that's what the 13th Amendment killed. Right, because the 13th Amendment had nothing to do with freedom of the slaves. It had everything to do with the Confederate falling. That's why they instituted the greenbacks. It was to take away the Confederates' money.
That's right.
Because they were holding all the cards. Remember, the Confederates needed nothing from the North. They needed nothing. Nothing.
The abolishment
the North
of slavery
had nothing.
Was a tactic to cripple the South.
That's it.
It was to cripple the Confederacy. That's why Lincoln said what he said. He said, and I quote, "If I could have saved the Union and not freed the slaves, I would have done so." He
would have done so. He couldn't.
That's wild.
That's the truth.
But it's what you guys are mentioning. This conversation is also stirring up issues amongst the genders between when women feel like they are on the bottom of the list with this whole DEI thing.
Yes.
And men and their microaggressions are putting them on the back burner.
Yes.
Do you see that happening, Reef?
I definitely see it happening. This whole thing, I had mentioned it before. Some people got upset with me online. I said a lot of the executive orders being signed and things like that, they know. Like for instance, the whole birthright, even the birthright citizenship thing. Come on, they know that. And when I say they, I'm talking about Trump's handlers. They know that it's not just going to be blanket just through an executive order. They know that you're going to have issues via Congress. They know these things.
Yeah.
The real impact is the social impact.
Yep.
The real impact is thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are like, yes, get rid of the 14th Amendment because we want these niggas up out of here.
Yeah. Well, nice knowing you, brothers. My parents came here 40 plus years ago. I'm out. Nice
you know what I'm saying?
Ron.
And whether it can happen legally or not is not the issue.
It's not even an issue.
He
could say, "This is what I did."
A whole bunch of uninformed Americans acting on it.
Yep.
That's the issue, people.
And he also says, "Look what I said I was going to do this, and this is what I've done."
You got it, Doc.
It has nothing to do with coming to fruition.
Right.
This I said I was going to do. This is what I've done.
You got it. You got it.
I'm good. Because every
now my
base
is going to rock out with me.
Yeah.
You think November 6th was something? What? They ready to act up right now. Are you kidding me?
Now I do know him signing that agreement about the military of us going and handling the cartels as a special operator. It's not. It's just going to be carnage all over the streets. I do want to say that here on this platform, it's not healthy. There's more to it.
Way more to it. Doctor, you're 100% correct. And again, being part of a special team, intimately that, let's just, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful. That is just pure catering to his ignorant base, because that's one of the dumbest things to ever say. When you're talking, how you going after the cartels? The cartels are the 5th largest employer in all of Mexico.
Wow.
That's a fact.
Yeah, fact.
Number 2, the problem isn't demand. The problem isn't supply. The problem's demand. You hear what I'm saying? The problem is the demand. Who's the demand? The American people.
The American people.
And because of that, listen close. Do you really think the cartels are operating independent of Americans with power?
No.
No.
Because you got to ask yourself, the question is, and I kind of already figured out the answer. Who is their bank?
Come on, brother.
Who's their bank?
Brother, there's recent news about certain American banks that were cleaning Mexican money.
And
they got slaps on the wrist. They got slaps on the wrist. That's all they got. Slaps on the wrist.
Chase Bank. Chase Bank.
What about the Russians?
Yeah. Here's a better one. Watch this. And Doc, I know you'll get this one because of your background. Watch this, people. And I know this personally because I've got friends in the martial arts world that work in Mexico. Y'all are familiar with the movie Man on Fire, right?
Yeah.
That's what they do, because one of the number one activities of the Mexican underworld is kidnapping.
Yep. Yeah.
So mess with one of these cartel guys, and then you got a border patrol guy who gets his whole family kidnapped. And the only thing the only way he's going to be able to get his family back is if he turns his AR-15 on his comrades. What you think he's doing?
Turn his AR-15 on his comrades. And how many indigenous people you think are in this country?
Come on,
that has ties back to Mexico.
Exactly.
Of course. The people who have what you call the haves, the people who are folding your laundry, parking your cars, setting your table, cooking your food, all these people have ties inside the haves. They're in trouble. So you're waging war on all the people that's in an intricate society to everything that you are.
Yeah,
you're turning a bullet on your own head.
Yo, that's why I tell matter of fact, I tell people I love.
Yes.
That this is a real serious situation.
Yes.
Be vigilant, be alert, keep your eyes open, because people can start taking things out on the American people.
Brother Ron.
Even traveling is dangerous.
One last thing that I'll add to this, and we could go on about this one, but I'm just going to throw this one out there. The cartels have billions and billions and billions of dollars. The cartels have satellites, brother.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
The cartels have technology and influence that rival nations, people. Like who?
And like we said earlier, the supply and demand. The demand here, can I keep it real with you? America, as Nori said, cocaine's America's favorite drug.
Straight like that.
You understand? I'm sorry. Someone gonna be offended. When you want that sour, that weed, that good stuff, you're gonna roll up, you get it from the border. Everybody talk about meeting up with Poppy.
And brother, and that means that there's a great many American officials that are benefiting because they're assisting with the supply.
That's right.
Which means what? They're already bought by the cartels.
Yeah, and why do you think they killed Pablo Escobar? It wasn't because he was selling drugs. It's because he paid Colombia's debt. The debt was paid, and they were like, how in the world did this man pay this country's debt? You see, if Mexico pays a debt to America, it's over with.
Yep.
And you cannot attack Mexico, because when you attack Mexico, you got to think about also the Caribbean, that is a hub for the drugs to come in.
Brother, and that's one last thing I'll say this too, brother, but the doctor knows this as well. Mm-hmm. You got the president talking about treating the cartels or labeling the cartels as terrorist organizations, which opens the door for special teams to go in and target them. Listen, people, it can't happen. Without permission from the Mexican government. If the Mexican government doesn't say yes, you can't do it. And if you do, then what is that taken as? It's taken as an offense, a military offensive against a sovereign nation.
Act of war.
Straight like that.
And if the American people thought at the time of 9/11 that every Arab could have been a terrorist, might have been a terrorist, then I don't know if these people are going to leave the house if every Latino, indigenous, Spanish-speaking person could be part of a cartel. They might as well blow their own brains out because they're everywhere.
Straight like that.
Yeah. And one thing I'm gonna say, guys,
that means your roof is never getting done. That means you'll never go to a Walmart. That means you'll never go to a hotel. That means you'll never eat out ever again.
And forget about Uber.
The doctor just also blew the lid off this whole immigration farce.
Right. Yeah.
It's a farce, people. Those you put them out. This has been happening for decades. Election year, the states and the southern states, especially on the conservative side, we got to deal with this border problem with these undocumented immigrants, blah, 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 blah. You know how much money undocumented immigrants in this country pay into the system and don't get the benefits? They pay into Social Security. Do you know that? To the tune of $2.6 million a year. They pay into the system. That means that means America's getting something for almost nothing from undocumented immigrants, and they're doing jobs. Let's keep it a buck.
And Americans
that the average American citizen refuses to do. So I don't want to hear that. Oh, they're taking our jobs. You ain't gonna do it anyway. So guess what happens every cycle? They loudly put them out and then quietly bring them back.
Yeah, go work in the fields. I wanted to mention one thing though, with what Trump is doing, right? Like I said, I'm neither Republican or Democrat, but with his actions, right, which can affect many others, including people that's within his cabinet, those in the Senate, whatever politicians.
Yes,
it might lead to November 22nd, 1963 again.
Real brother,
I'm just leave
brother.
Right
No. In my opinion, dear brother, in my opinion, that's what I think certain people are pushing for.
Yeah,
because all you got to do is look at the results. You may not know the play in the huddle, but when they run the play and see then okay, that's what was discussed in the huddle. Yeah. You got our people even more divided. Man, I don't like Mikey, man. He's not the FBA.
Right.
See?
Yep.
See? Yo, Mikey, man, listen, man. Mikey, man, listen. Your parents might get deported, B.
Yeah.
See?
And I'll go with them.
See? This is what it's the social impact that we got to look at, people. The social impact is going to trump any legal back and forth and any legislative back and forth.
Yeah.
November 6th did not need, listen, this is one of the things that Trump and his cronies understand very well. You don't need legislation or an executive order for November 6th.
No.
See?
Yeah.
They know that.
You know, they're crying about funding. And again, I know you're not going to cancel NYP, but you know, a part of history didn't take place on U.S. shores, but we still funding a state since 1948. Billions of dollars annually. How is that possible? And I know you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Actual fact.
Hey, bros, I know we can really talk about this for a lifelong day, but I gotta take off. I love you.
Love you too.
Yeah, love you too. Love you too. Yo, on that note, thank y'all for showing up this evening. Really appreciate it. Dope podcast as usual.
Yes, sir.
And we're out of here. Peace.
Peace.